hear
We
you.
about to be live. We live, ladies and gentlemen. We live.
What up? What up? What up? Welcome to Brothers Y'all Good, the podcast. We're on episode 13, and you know what's up tonight. It's about the letters, baby. Phi Beta Sigma. Yes, we are in the house tonight. My name is Mike W. I'm with my man, Jason S. We're the co-hosts for this podcast, and we're going to make it happen tonight. But before we get started and introduce my frat brothers, our guest tonight, I got to ask you, Jason, my man, how you doing, brother? You good?
Well, Mike, I am doing decent today, man. There's a couple of cool changes in my life. I don't even know if I told you this yet, but I have a new position at work now.
Of course you do.
Yeah, I left recruitment. I'm now the fire information officer. So I'm like the public information officer for the fire department. So that's cool. Thank you, fellas. I appreciate that. Long time coming. I've been doing that for like 23 years. I've been in doing stuff with media and things like that. People always say, man, aren't you the PIO? Look, guys, even folks on our job. So doing that, really grateful, really looking forward to that. And then there was one other thing I wanted to share with you too that I forgot. So maybe it wasn't, maybe it's not that big of a deal. But today, man, I actually, I have a nonprofit that works with folks who are coming home from prison. And we've had some opportunities to partner with Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility. And I got a chance to play my bagpipes today at their employee cultural fair. So connected with the warden and the associate warden, and they asked me if I would come and play for as they lead the colors in during their employee appreciation thing. So it's really about building those relationships and making sure that we can, they're a part of our desire to change the narrative of what it means to be formerly incarcerated. So I'm really excited about that. Super grateful for those relationships, and I'm happy to be here. But let me say this, or let me ask this, brother. You good?
Yo,
hey.
Letters on the podcast, you know that it's about to go down. I'm good. Before I get to tonight's podcast, I want to update. Last week, I talked about my mom. She had taken a fall. Went up last weekend, checked on her. Between last Tuesday and last weekend, I found out that she had actually cracked a rib. But she's built tough. And she's doing well, so she's at home. She didn't stay overnight at the hospital or anything.
Of course,
got a chance to spend with her, and I knew I had to get out because I had to fly. I'm on the East Coast tonight in my city of Washington D.C.
Hey,
but I wanted to make sure I was here tonight because tonight I knew it was going down. We've got my fraternity, the most honorable, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, represented tonight. I'm going to let these two brothers introduce themselves. I'm going to start with the dear Dr. Raul Randle.
Well, hold on real quick hold on. Cause I'll be trying to figure this thing out. I'm sorry, fellas. You are absolutely going to get your chance. I'm a back away. This is Mike's night, but we always talk about seniority in this thing, right? Mm-hmm. I'll be asking like,
deference. I was gonna show deference. Don't worry about it. I got you.
No. I don't know.
I got you. Hey, let me help you out, Jay. Hey, I'm a yield to our president, my pro fight, to show deference.
That feels good to be called a pro fight. Let me tell you.
Explain to the people, like, because I think we take for granted sometimes that language and how those things work. Part of this, like highlighting the D9, is maybe some of that too. So, what does that mean? Like, what did he just say to you? For those that may not know,
ultimately, it means I'm part of the brotherhood, the brothers that were already in the chapter existing. That was part of his new membership process. So, in the recruitment of Dr. Randle and the conversation with Dr. Randle to ensure that this path that he has taken on, this commitment that he's making to Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, was one that he wanted to continue to journey down and cross those burning sands, and which he did. So I'm very, very proud of the fact that he did so. So that is what that terminology means.
Okay, and so let me just one step further. And I'm sorry, I promise I'm gonna back away. I know I'm on Mike's grounds.
Yeah, it's just educational purposes. That's what we're here for.
So another thing that somebody in this group is kind of real special.
Real special
about your, in your organization. He got a big old head, and there's 4 of us here. We can say something about any one of us. But one of them got a big head and a white beard. So can one of you guys tell me what Mike means to y'all's organization and what makes him special in terms of what you all do in your, you see what I'm saying? Like in your organization, Can you tell folks? Because I guess I'm amongst greatness tonight, and so I'm getting ready to mute myself. So
it doesn't happen often, huh? Doesn't happen often. I've watched all the podcasts. So it doesn't happen often in this particular podcast that we have one of our charter members here in San Diego as part of this podcast that planted the seed that all the other plants that grew that became Sigma men here in San Diego. It started with this man right here, Judge Washington. He is a charter member of the Phi Beta Sigma line here at San Diego State University. So without that line getting started to start the process, to plant the seed of Phi Beta Sigma here in San Diego, that man right there, him and his line brothers are the reason why the rest of us are here and started here in San Diego.
Man, I felt like that was necessary to get that out, because I think anytime somebody is in the place that started something that is as special as what you all have, I just wanted to, all jokes aside, but because I'm a clown, I do it in my own way. But I just want to say, I think that's really dope. And that means that everybody that became a member of the Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated in San Diego did so because of Mike and his line. Right. So everybody, and did you say, Mike, I heard you say something about 1975. Am I tripping?
1979.
1979.
Dang. So real quick, real funny story. Y'all probably heard this. We was at the cancer walk and I saw some young guys who I would imagine are like new people in the organization. And I said, hey, do you guys have to memorize your like charter members or people that started the organization? Absolutely. Like, is there, you guys got like a Mike or somebody? Yeah, brother Mike Washington, blah, blah, blah. Have you ever met him before? No. Well, here he is right here. They was like, they started like, I was like, that's crazy, man. I said, I ain't never doing that, man. I tried to trip Mike when he walked away. Let me show you that. That's really dope. Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to Beth. Y'all want to introduce yourselves, and I just wanted to get that out. Super glad that y'all here, man. But Cecil, since you are his pro fight, man, take it away, man. Introduce yourself. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, brothers. It's a pleasure being on with Brothers Y'all Good. Today, I'm good. Start off by saying that in the place of mine where currently today, I'm a good day to be a part of, this podcast with brothers that I've known for such a long time here in San Diego that I respect highly, not only as men, but the work you do in the community as men. And so first and foremost, thank you, brothers, for all that you're doing and giving us this platform, this opportunity to speak to an audience and kind of have a therapy session, and if you will. We don't get down and have a real conversation very often. So I'm very appreciative of this opportunity. So a little bit about myself. Currently, I am the president of the Lambda Iota Sigma chapter here in San Diego, which is the grad chapter for here in San Diego. It's the grad chapter advisor for the Lambda Iota chapter at San Diego State here currently. I'm originally from Louisiana. I came here in San Diego in 1990, 15 years old. I had an aunt, uncle that lived out here, man, and I would come visit them in summers. And, town I was from in Colfax, it's called Colfax, Louisiana, small town, about little 900 people. It fluctuates between 900 and 1,000 people. No one store, no stoplights.
Wow.
Here's a bigger surprise. This is a town that's still segregated. So all the blacks live on one side of the tracks, all the whites stay on the other side of the tracks. Yeah, that is my hometown, Colfax, Louisiana. A famous story is wrote about it called Red River. It's about one of the biggest massacres that happened in the United States over voting when the blacks were trying to vote. It's one of the biggest massacres here in the United States. So that's our claim to fame, unfortunately. But that is where I'm from. Married, 3 kids, man. My daughter's 31, love of my life, 31, 8 and 6, Brandy, Ava, and Cheyenne. Those are my hearts right there, man. And man, that's been spreading my wings here in San Diego for quite some time. in the community. Coached football for a long time here in San Diego. About 20 years I spent as a coach at Balboa. And then I coached 4 years at Lincoln as well too. Won the first David Dunn's first championships when he came back as a coach in 2012. I was part of that coaching staff.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And you talking about the Balboa Raiders?
Balboa Raiders. The
wow,
Balboa
that's
Raiders.
Old school. That's old school, baby.
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
What you know about the Raiders?
Hey, I bleed silver and black through and through. I could not coach any other youth team because of that. So that's why I coached the Raiders. It's the only team I was going to coach for. And then even when I moved away from that area, and I got offers to coach somewhere else, and I just couldn't do it, man. I was Balboa Raider through and through. And besides going to Lincoln and help coach, I just couldn't coach, anywhere else besides those places. So, yeah, that's pretty much me right now where I'm at in my life, man. And I'm married to a very powerful individual right now. So that changed our lives. That gave me a new chapter in our lives to have to deal with. So we'll get into that a little bit later, but that is definitely something that has brought drastic change to our day-to-day daily activities.
Right. No, that's good, man. Not only is she powerful, but she's dope. She's down to earth, and her story is incredible.
Absolutely.
Had a chance to know her before. I didn't even realize that y'all, that y'all was married, and just it's a trip.
We keep it low key, we keep it humble, doing our thing, man. Head down.
You said the other day, man, I'm ready to go out with my boo thing. I said, okay. No, you said my baddie. I said, okay. That's good stuff, man. Thank you, man. Glad that you're here. Dr. Randall, what's good?
Before I introduced myself, I didn't realize his wife was Boricua, so at least part Boricua, Puerto Rican.
El Salvadorian.
El Salvadorian,
yeah.
I thought you said Puerto Rican at the thing. But yeah, Raul Randle. I came to San Diego in '94 when I joined the Navy. I'm from LA, Watts, California, to be specific. I actually learned how to walk at the Watts Towers. And the interesting thing is that my grandfather was actually a cop during Watts riots of '65.
Oh wow.
So he was a LAPD cop during that time. Been here since '94, man. Did 23 years in the Navy, retired Navy officer. Currently a program manager for Global Securities, formerly known as Huntington Ingalls. Also an adjunct professor for 3 different universities right now, National, Vincennes, and then Miramar Community College. But interestingly enough, through Miramar College, the junior college, they have this thing called the Rising Scholars. So I teach at the prison at the Miramar Consolidated Brig, human relations and business, and we'll talk about that more later. What that really means to me, and that's really been really good for me and my mental health, and just me as a person growing. Like I said, been around a long time. We'll get into the Sigma thing later. 5 kids. Oldest is 31, just turned 31, so that's why you see all the grades popping more.
The daughter,
you got to get into the Sigma thing now, because you got a unique. You got to tell them how many was who came along with you.
Me.
Solo.
You was a solo.
Me, yeah. It was just me. Yeah,
that's strong.
That's strong. Yeah, I'm spring of 17. I actually was looking at Sigma for about 2.5, 3 years. They made me wait. It was funny. They really made me wait. They really made me show some patience. And I don't know if it's partly because I'm a Mason or partly just because that's part of the process. I think it's just part of the process. But it was more humbling to wait all that time. And then 17 when I crossed, like I said, Cecil was there. He was my pro fight. So I've been a member since 2017. And it's just made everything so much better. Like I said, we'll get into it later. I don't want to kind of spill those beans, but yeah, solo.
We ain't really got no, we just gonna do what we do. But let me just say this, man, Mike, and then I'll let you take over, man. I'm sorry. I just want to shout you out, Cecil, and Dr. Randall for sure, man. We've been, for the last 3 years, we've been doing this Christmas, like this mobile Santa thing with the D9. We talked about this a couple other times before this, but I just want to shout out to Sigmas for always having representation. I'm just very grateful for the D9 and for the regular commitment that folks in these organizations make to giving back to the community when they do. And so shout out to you guys for the Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated for always being there. And whenever I'm around either one of you, just the way that y'all represent is amazing. And so I just want to say I see y'all, and I appreciate you, brother. Salute to y'all, man. All right, Mike,
No
I'm
doubt.
gonna mute myself.
No. Before you mute yourself, Jason, why don't you go ahead and tell them what Brothers Y'all Good, the podcast is about? I know most of the people watching might already know, but for some folks, this might be their first episode.
Well, one thing about it is Brothers Y'all Good is more than just a podcast. We always like to say that this is a real talk space, and this is where Black men can come through, open up, and just get honest about mental health. Basically, this show dives deep into the stuff that for us matters: faith, fatherhood, fellowship, and all the ups and downs of navigating life as a Black man today. So we're talking about from dealing with stress, anxiety, and trauma to breaking through the stigmas that's been holding us back. This particular podcast keeps it real, and we keep it very real. We tell them before they come on, we go wherever you want to go. And it's with personal stories, expert advice, and practical tools to help you find peace and strength. This ain't just talk, though. It's about building each other up, sharing experiences, and creating a healthier, stronger community, because that's what we believe in. So we're glad that you pulled up. We want you to tune in, and let's get ready to have the conversations that heal. And together we're breaking the silence, overcoming barriers, and helping every brother to be able to say, yeah, brother, I'm good. Take it away, Mike. Glad y'all here.
I'm going to turn it back over to Brother Randall. I know you got a lot to say, and I'm not sure where you want to start, so I'm going to let you.
Where do I start? I mean, well, first of all, Sarah, hey, how you doing? Love working with Sarah. Super dope individual. I think my journey, you're talking about mental health, like I got to, I don't want to say a stigma. So I see a therapist every 2 weeks. And I think as Black men, we got to be okay not being okay. And that's hard for us. Our pride from what we were taught from slavery all the way until now is just to be tough, right? To not cry. I know my grandpa used to always say, you're not a real man till you cry. You know what I mean? So 15, moms left me. I had to figure it out. Intended to go to college. Went to junior college for a little bit. Joined the Navy when around 20 years old. First kid on the way. Had to make a decision. 23 years later, was really successful in the Navy, but it propelled me to where I am now. 5 degrees, 2 masters, a doctorate, bachelor's and associates. Working on some other certifications. Teaching is my passion. I think it's my everything. It's my energy. When I'm in front of the podium, rocking, like that's life right there, right? And then this Rising Scholars Program, you're dealing with incarcerated people, but they're super dope individuals.
Yeah,
man, I'm done for now. I'm done for now. I get a little emotional, man.
No, but
man, live there for a second.
I want to stay in that moment for a second.
Yeah,
because that's the real power of it, right? Part of what you were just sharing with us is what your grandfather said, right? You're not a real man until you cry.
Oh yeah.
And so what we often do, especially as Black men, is we get to that place where we feel it all welling up and we turn it over to somebody else. And in this format, it's easy to do that, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to go, yo, Brother Shelton, why don't you take it? Brother Washington, why don't somebody else take the mic for a second? But I want to stay here in a minute and share with the audience just a little bit about what's got you choked up. There's a lot that you unpack in this segment.
It's just being able to give back, being a mentor for YEC, and we'll talk about that, Young Excellence Club. Teenage kids in high school, all of them are going to college, being able to mentor those kids. We meet with them, almost every Sunday, Cecil. Just kind of spearheading them, getting them tools and understanding, but just being in this space to be able to give back through this great fraternity, being able to have that brotherhood, scholarship, and service. The service is a huge thing for me. The little bit of time I have, I dedicated to doing that. So that emotion comes from now being in a space to give back, and then people looking up to you. It's a heavy responsibility.
Amen. We're going to come back to it. I'm going to let you off though now.
Yeah.
The Cecil,
all good.
I'll
Talk
be
a little bit
next.
about that group that you guys work with on Sundays.
It's the Young and Prosperous Foundation, founded by one of our frat brothers, Chris Jones, Officer Chris Jones here in San Diego. And the Young Exit Club is the males within that group. So the Young and Prosperous services males and females from middle school all the way up to 12th grade. And then the Young Exit Club, that same age range, but it's for the male group specifically. And I got to go back a little ways where it all started from. And it's uh, brother named Tracy Morris, who was very impactful in my life, very impactful here in San Diego. He's the one. I'm why he's why I'm here. I worked at a organization. I was in HR, and I hired him there. Had no idea he was a Sigma. This brother came to my office every single day, telling me how he loved Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Almost every single day, having these conversations. He's like, I know you already in the community. I see what you already do in the community. Won't you link up with brothers that's on the same mental wavelength that you on? Leave the stuff behind, because he knew I had a previous past that was about trying to be a gang banger and all this other stuff. I had a whole different life. And so I was transitioned to this next chapter in my life. And he saw that and recognized that. Was like, there's a place for you. There's people for you, a new family for you. So he planted the seed to really drive home serving the community and serving these young men who need and desire mentorship and need it. And some of them have it, but some of them need just a little bit more reinforcement. We're, I like to say, me and Dr. Randall, we're like their uncles. So they talk to us differently than they would their dad or whoever their guardian is in their household. They open up a little bit more, have more genuine conversations with us because they see us as not trying to put up a wall up or that I'm going to reprimand them for being honest. And so it's been I've learned so much about myself dealing with these young men. They pour into me just as much as we try to pour into them. And we're just so happy to see them grow and go on to next levels that a different pathway. Me and Dr. Reynolds, we talk all the time about our past. It was a crooked line to where we got to. Theirs probably a bit more straight, but ours is definitely a crooked line because it was a different time to where it took us to get to where we are today. I had the same similar story. Got out of high school, was smart. Had a gentleman who was an alpha, actually, who was a mentor, one of my mentors when I got out of school. I was smart, but I was, like I said, trying to find my way. And the way that I was finding was with the wrong people. And so that was setting me back in actually pursuing my education the way I should have. It took me dang near 15 years to complete my degree. I never stopped, but I kept going. But it was all these other things that were kind of part of that process of me getting to this point. Then now I can pass those lessons on to the next generation on the hardships of some of the mistakes and choices I made. Hopefully, they don't make those same choices. So it's been a blessing to be part of this organization.
Yeah, I think just watch this just real quick for context for the audience. Like, so 4 members of that YEC. Let me give you guys some quantifiable facts. Just four of those young men, they just did their first major fundraisers, a Mother's Day tea, successful event, sold out. Mm-hmm. So 4 of them amassed these numbers. These 4 have been accepted to 174 colleges, have completed 902 service hours, community service hours, and have amassed scholarship amounts north of $5 million. Now, just let those numbers sink in. Just 4 individuals.
Yeah.
Just let those numbers sink in.
Right. Yeah, that's dope. To me, I mean, those numbers in themselves are dope without any context, right? You don't need those numbers in and of themselves are just dope, period. But to me, to me, I think some of the value that often is overlooked is the stories that got y'all to where you are right now to be a part of their journeys. And I think if we could just like, I think it's, people hear this stuff that, oh, you're in a fraternity and you did this, you get to do cool stuff. I'm sure you guys have all these things, right? You guys are watching these young men do this and that and this and that. You're married to a dope woman. You got all these degrees and you're looking to get more. You all are unrelatable from 30 years old or 25 years old to where you are now, whatever, right? I want to go back and like, what was it like to get to here though? Because that's what I'm very interested to hear, because that's the beauty that even these young men probably don't even know and they may, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you guys say to them, but so let's go back to some of the, like when y'all was younger, like getting to here, you talked about Cecil, how, you made a transition even when Tracy, rest in peace, talk to you, but go back a little bit, man, and let's talk about like what it was like for you to get to this point.
Man, let's see. For me, wild story. Raised partially I was born to a single mother household, but in a small town. This is the crazy part, is that my dad lived around the corner from me. It wasn't until I was 42 years old until he actually confessed and and actually said, "Yes, you are my son." And the whole town knew. The whole town knew that this was my father. But in small towns, people keep secrets. People don't want to tell those secrets, and will take it to the death, to their deathbed without telling the secret. And this is how the world and Lord God works and wonders. Is that me and my wife was having our second child, and because we were older, having our second child, I had to get a blood test. We all had to take a blood test to make sure whatever ailments or anything like that could be passed on to my daughter. So when we took that test, that's when the DNA hit on Ancestry.com popped up. All these people on my dad's side of the family came up as first cousins.
Wow.
And said, "Hey man, you my dad. Oh, you can." He didn't want it because he's still with this the lady. I call her Mama Dean now. We're real close now. And who would have thought? The child born out of an affair becomes real close with his current wife, and we're super close.
Right.
Crazy story, but we're super close now. That's part of the thing that shaped me today. But back then, man, I was just a lost child trying to figure it out. Because of that, that was part of the issues. I had an uncle who, came into my life and was that dad figure, but there was still that underlying thing out there of I don't know what the rest of my family looks like, or half of my family is, who they are, what makes me me, type of deal. So I kind of grew up with that as a teenager, and just was trying to gang bang, man. I was just trying to find a family, that type of family. Maybe that's what I was looking for when I was looking for that part of the family, that part of me that I didn't know existed, or had a connection to. So I was looking for that. What was that? Was I was to go to the streets and hang out and do those bad things and do all the things that I know if half the things I already got caught for. There's by God's grace, I'm here standing here talking to you gentlemen today, because I shouldn't be. I honestly, when I think about some of the things that I was doing or trying to do, there's absolutely no way I should be sitting here talking to any of you gentlemen. So I'm talking about some bad stuff, man. So I was able to, make better choices as I continue to get older. The main thing that lifestyle took me to, I had a substance abuse issues, struggled with, and so was able to battle those demons, and shake those demons. And matter of fact, I can tell you to the day Michael Jackson died is the day I laid everything down. The day he died is the day I laid everything down. And so it was one of those things where, like, here's one of my childhood heroes only passing away at 52 years old, gone. If I don't slow down on these vices, then that could be me next. And so that was the day I decided all that stuff changed, and I'm through with it. So as Dr. Randall said, many of therapy sessions, many of therapy sessions to get through and discover the scope of who I am and where I'm trying to get to. And so met this as I was gang banging. That was another thing. I was on that corner and I saw this young lady and I said, "That's who I'm gonna marry." And she said, "Not like that." Not that guy. Not that guy. I was like, dang, the woman I professed first day I met her, first day I saw her, that's the woman I'm gonna marry. Told all my friends, that's the woman I'm gonna marry. And so God has it is that we go out one night and somebody's trying to talk to her at the club. She's trying to get away from that person. I'm sitting at a table by myself. She just sits down and says, "Can I pretend I'm talking to you so this other person will leave me alone?" And from that night forward, we were together. And so God brought her back into my realm, into my presence, so that we can be together. So it's 31 years we've been on that journey together. So she's part of it. She's definitely been the overwhelming force to not give up on me, to always give me hope when others, and maybe I gave up on myself at times, that she did not uh give up on me and continue to give me hope and continue to drive me to next levels and that next level. Not only by her work ethic and who she is, but by believing in me every step of the way. So
Dope.
all kudos to her.
That's dope. Wow. Yeah. What man, that's good. What about you, Dr. Randall? Kind of what was
it's funny because Cecil and I we didn't talk this to this granularity. There were some things I actually just learned right now, but for the most part, I knew the majority.
Now you want to get out the fraternity? He done told a few.
No, we're good. We're good.
He was lying to me the whole time.
Nah, it's blue fire till I die, baby. Blue fire till I die.
Okay. My bad.
So again, being left at 15, I was actually playing Pop Warner football in Moreno Valley, California, of all places. And so my teammate, who was a running back at the time, Eric, mom's said, "Hey, I'm gonna go spend the night over Eric's house." Okay, cool. She decides that she's gonna go to Flint, Michigan. Just bounce. And it's just, your world get rocked. At 15, you got to figure some shit out. You're like, all right. What just happened? So I go to Eric's house, and his mom, who's now my adopted mother, by law adopted mother, Ellen Batch, took me in. Didn't know me from a can of paint. I could have been a dope dealer. I could whatever, right? Took me in for without having the financial resources. You got two teenage boys and a young boy that had, neurodivergent son, 5 years old at the time, my little brother, Corey. And it was crazy. So, going through that, I've been moved around a lot from the time I was in elementary to the time I was, 15, 16, obviously just moving back and forth. Right. And I was a hooper. So all I wanted to do was hoop and go to school. That was my two things. I want to go to college and hoop. And get a degree. That was my thing. So, mom took me in. Ella took me in. Then my biological mother, decides to come back. Friction, right? Ellen, now my guardian at the time, was like, no, you don't have any stability. You're not going anywhere. He's staying here. So, long story short, we fast forward a little bit. I kind of bumbled through high school, barely finished. I didn't finish actual high school. I had to go to an adult school. So at this point, I'm getting ready to get I think I'm on some stupid stuff. I'm like, yeah, Grandpa, I'm gonna get a GED. He just looked at me. You're not gonna get a GED. You're gonna get a high school diploma. So he said, hey, I think I was 19 at the time. Hey, come live with me. Go to night school. Work nights and get a diploma, high school diploma. So I went to an adult school in Walnut, California, got an actual diploma. And then I was like, okay, what's next? Girlfriend at the time was pregnant. So, college I had already enrolled in Mount Sac, getting ready for the fall, and it was time to go. I had to join the Navy. As a matter of fact, trying to join the Navy, I failed the entrance exam like 3 times. Right. And I think that 2 or 3 times. And that third time, I passed, like barely. You need a 31? I got a 31. So get in the Navy. It's 94 at this time. I joined the Navy, straight out of LA, straight hood. I mean, I didn't know how to conduct myself, handle a conversation, nothing. I get in, my first chief petty officer. He said, well, you won't last 2 years in the Navy. So you don't know how to talk. Right. Just all the racist innuendos you could think about, right? So that pissed me off, and that grew a boulder on my shoulder, not a chip. So I said, because if you don't want me to do something, just tell me I can't do it and see what happens. And so now I'm fired up. So I'm studying everything I can, every book, every manual I get. I had read so many manuals and publications. I just advance quick. Fast forward 17 years in, I was an E8. I decided I'm gonna take another jump. I'm gonna be an officer. I applied for a warrant officer program. Got denied the first time. Second time, third time got accepted. And then the last 6 years, here I am, right? Retired. So I retired and, went into project management, which is what my specialty is in for my doctorate and my MBA. And here we sit today, right? And I've always had this infinity to teach. So that was something I told my wife, I'm going to do that, right? I want to teach. I feel like I got something to say. And she's like, well, people listen to you. Okay. So, here I am. My past is, like we said, it's crooked. It's nothing. So I rock with Cecil. The young men rock with us because they see us like them, right? Rough around the edges. And it's funny, even in that journey in the Navy, I lived in Japan for 3 years and got a chance to just see that culture. My kids were there. 2 of my kids were there with me, and we experienced that. So that kind of gave me some insight. This was from 06 to 09. Became a Mason at that time. And actually now I'm a 33rd degree Mason. So I've been in Masonry for about 18 years now. So just a lot to unpack, but that's the brief synopsis on like my journey. My journey is just really structured in a sense, but chaotic on the other hand. So
right, and so let's unpack a little of that, because you're this guy who's in the Navy. You got the chief petty officer saying you won't be in for 2 years, and you're going to prove him wrong. Well,
Yep.
proving him wrong doesn't mean I get 5 degrees and become a doctor. All right.
No, I've always had this knowledge, and I've always had this thirst, right? Just like I said, I wanted to get a degree and play basketball, right? Obviously, the basketball didn't happen. I'm 51 now, so the basketball's done. That's a hoop to me. But I always knew I wanted to get education, and so as I think about education, what really drove me over the top? I'd already had a bachelor's. I think I had 1 master's. By the time I became a Sigma, I was around brothers that were doctorates, PhDs, right? All these lawyers, people of esteem. So I went to my first regional conference, and then we went to our first conclave in Vegas. I think this was 2018.
Stop for just a second, because we've got other fraternity members on, but I don't think anybody's talked about what a conclave is. So why don't you tell our audience what a conclave is?
So the conclave is the governance of our fraternity. Every 2 years we hold our conclave, and that's when we typically do elections of officers. We handle all the business of the fraternity from a worldwide perspective, not just from a local, because the fraternity is a worldwide organization, but broken down to local and regional chapters and such, to include undergraduate chapters. Undergraduate chapters are the chapters that are at the colleges, the younger men that are in college. So that governance, that body meets every 2 years. And it just so happened that I became a member the year before, and it was just a blessing for me to have a regional conference, which was in Tacoma, Washington, which was, a mini version of the actual conclave, the same governance for your. And then to be able to the very next year, to go to conclave. So it gave me some real perspective, right? And then I was like, okay, I got to step my game up, right? I'm not. I'm okay, but I need to get to another level. So being around those brothers, right? In project management, you say that you co-locate and learn by osmosis, right? Being around those other brothers, hearing these conversations through an osmotic way made me want to do better. Nobody ever said, go get another degree, go get a doctorate. No. It just made me want to do better, because not that I wanted to fit in, but just that I wanted to do better. Because they say, iron sharpens iron. So you're around these guys, the likes of just watching, right? And so you're in a space where it makes sense to do better. So I do it. I start working on a doctorate. I mean, I'm 40-something years old. The hell I'm doing working on a doctorate for? Stressing my wife out 2 years, 4 years I went through that. But got it, right? And then that was the most important thing I could have ever done. That was the most, I sat back, I just got a doctorate degree. Like I didn't, I had to really sink in, like being part of that 2% club. That was really like an aha moment for me. So.
Amen.
Hold
Yeah,
on,
amen. Because I'm
but real quick, why though? Because we keep, you know what I'm
Well,
saying? We keep every time.
just like Dr. Eric Thomas, right? I'm reading
Hold
this book
on,
called
we
You Owe
talking
You.
about mental health, Dr.
Yeah,
Randall.
yeah.
Hold on.
No,
So when you said
go ahead.
aha moment, talk about like go back, mom
Yeah.
gone. You know what I'm saying? Adopted. You're saying all these things. Like what? And even in the Navy, this dude says you ain't gonna be nothing. Like that stops most people. Most people accept that and they leave. They certainly don't go up to be a doctor. What happened to you mentally where you said no, because that's a mental shift. That's a mental health thing. Like what was that for you, man, that sort of made that aha moment so like
So,
so valuable?
yeah, so my mom now, Ellen, and I'll call her my mom, because biological mom passed away, blah blah blah. But anyway, my mom, she's a preacher. So one thing she would always read us, we would always go to church, always, 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 always. And I used to, man, I used to hate it at first. I used to hate Sunday mornings, getting dressed, going to church, right, being there all day. But again, through osmosis, you sit there, you hear all these biblical stories, and what stuck with me, the aha moment was the Apostle Paul, because the Apostle Paul was Saul. He used to kill Christians, and then he became revived and saved, and became the Apostle Paul. But in Corinthians 13, he says, "When I was a child, I spoke as a child, understood as a child. When I became a man, I put childish things away." So I became a man. That was the aha moment, and then it was like, I got to do better, right? I've always wanted to get advanced education anyway, but to be part of this exclusive set of people that do this one thing that's very, very hard to do, it was an aha moment just to have that thought that, damn, I could do that. And I just set my mind to it and did it. So that was the moment.
No, and I respect that, Mike. You know where you man. Look, I respect that. I want to, and for sure, 100%. But I want somebody who is in this place where somebody has said to them, "You're not going to do anything. You're dumb, whatever." And then in your mind, because it's almost like it kind of sounds like, okay, well, you say I ain't gonna be that, I'm just gonna do it. And all of a sudden your life just turned around. But I'm like, were there nights where you're like, I don't want to do this no more? This is stupid. I don't understand it. Like, was there ups and downs?
There's all self-doubt, right? You somebody tell you can't do something, and you're in a space that's unfamiliar to you. You're in the United States military. I'm deployed. I'd been on 10 deployments by the time it was done. I had never been out of the state of California. Let's just be honest, right? Now to be in, I think the first place was Hong Kong, right? So we're in Hong Kong. And so I'm in, some white man's in my face telling me pretty much I'm not nothing. I can't do anything and I can't speak and I'm ignorant and I'm just a, dumb whatever. It was just fuel for me because mom had already left me. So I already had a chip on my shoulder. I'd already had this separatist, okay, you're an outcast. But when they outcasted me, they lit this fire in me. So I was like, yeah, I can't do it. So now I got to prove myself right first and him wrong next. And it was just like, yeah, there was nights I doubted. There was nights I can't do this. I don't want to do this shit no more. I'm done. Like, but then I had brothers and mentors around me like, "L, keep going, keep going." So it was, it's always self doubt. But if you let that doubt overrule your why has to be bigger than the doubt. So my why was there. I had a why. I knew that I had a daughter. I knew that I had a situation. I had a family to take care of. That was my why. So that got me through the dark nights, through the sleepless nights, through the standing watch for 6 hours, sleeping 2 hours a day, right? Having to study, and then find time to do whatever, to write a letter to my ex-wife or whatever, my baby. So, your why, my why was bigger than the doubt. There's no magic formula. I just had a bigger why.
Talk a little bit about, you mentioned you had mentors. Talk about their role in your life at that time.
Just in the Navy's, such a cool place, and the military is such a cool place. You get around these people that have been there before you and they've seen some things, because you can't teach experience. So they had all this experience, man. So they just took me under their wing. Do this, do that. Hey, read this, read that. And I had a chief, Brian Burlaw. He was like, "Hey, we're gonna work on this. What are we working on, chief?" He'd take you down. You'll work on a piece of equipment. He wouldn't even he didn't know who he was because he didn't have any distinguishing marks on. He never would wear anything distinguishing like a real chief or a chief in the Navy. But he was so hands on, and I was like, But you learned, and you wanted to be like Brian. So that was a leadership. That was my first example of this is a leader. This is a leader.
That's powerful. Man,
so you could see somebody that you could try to emulate.
And he was white. That was crazy. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter. He was a hell of a leader. And he was like, he would work on stuff with you, show you how to do it, wouldn't berate you. He gave you a psychological safe space where you could make mistakes and not be reprimanded for it. That was dope to me. And so as a leader, been a leader for over 30 years now in different organizations, past president of Omicron Iota Sigma and other things in masonry, Brian was the one that really showed me how to lead people, how to bring people along, and met them at their level. He met me at my level.
That's what's up. That's what I wanted to hear about. Cecil, I want to go back to you because you kind of had a similar thing. We were talking about you living this kind of gang banging life, and then all we heard was you met the woman that would later become your wife. And next, you're talking to Tracy, who says you're doing service in the community. And I feel like we skipped some steps.
Yeah. That was the fast forward version.
That's a great life. Yeah, I was gang banging. I met a baddie, and next thing you know, I'm in a fraternity, and I am running church HR. I mean, that was
the sitcom version. We could do the mini series
hey,
version
I'm about
now.
to say podcast over. Get right.
We're doing the behind the music version, right?
Yeah, that was the quick version. So, yeah, man, me and my younger brother, we was just trying to find our way, man, out here, doing the most. So it was out here running the streets. If you whatever, I don't want to put people business out in the street, but whatever you can imagine those things was being done, we were doing those things that we shouldn't have been doing.
Enough said.
Across the board. And so it was, at that time, there's a couple of choices that our friends was making and was doing, death or jail. And we had a parental unit that was pretty much can foresee or foreshadow that happening. So at 16, that's when I met a brother who's an alpha who started a program at this high school that I was at, where he would bring some troubled youth into this room, and we would have therapy sessions once a week. We would sit down in this room, teenagers, never had this before. He was piloting this program called Project Self. And he's a prominent man here, still in San Diego. I don't know if you know, his name is Dr. Stephen Jones. And so he piloted this program with us, this pod, where we'd come in, and it was brothers that was smart but not applying themselves, which is probably the category I fell in, where I was super, super smart. All my testing was up here, but because of my peers and who I was hanging with, I wasn't really applying myself to the degree at which I should have been applying myself at that time. And so he was bringing us along. One of the life-changing experiences, he took us to USD for a week. So that was my first experience of being on a college campus. It was during the summer, so all the kids was gone, but he got a whole floor to ourselves, where we kind of woke up in the dorms, woke up together. We did exercises in the morning. We had all these learning and training development courses. That was part of the seed that got planted. That was probably the first seed that got planted that I could do more with my life, because it was in that moment that I was in a room with other individuals that I was able to share with, and then also lead in some of these. I noticed that people were following my lead because I guess I was smart. He was always telling me I was smart, but you get in this room and you start realizing, I guess I am. There's people following me and listening to me. That was probably the first seed that was planted. So it didn't really light a fire or anything to do to change much, but it did give me an idea. It did give me an idea that there's something more to me, to one of my layers within me. So I grew up as a insecure fat kid. So I had those insecurities, but at the same time, I wasn't shy, in a sense. But those insecurities always would come back and haunt me. And I think part of that was just self insecurities, and then the father thing. I had a man out there that I had an idea that was my dad all this time, but just wouldn't claim me, wouldn't confess. I think it was a part of him that he didn't want to confess to it, thinking he would lose his family if he actually confessed to having me as a son.
Oh, wow.
And that's what it came to be. He was afraid he was going to lose his family, the way that it was structured, if he either had to introduce me into that pod or have me a part of that pod. And I think it was part of him that just didn't want to have that interruption to his life and to his pod that he had. So I took a lot of that pain, a lot of that hurt, and I just kind of buried it, but it was always, festering there at some point, through decisions that I was, making along the way. So 19, just again, trying to find my way, just taking college courses, trying to do something, get into something, find a career. Still hadn't really identified what I wanted to do. So I did all the remedial jobs, working 2, 3 jobs at a time, just working. And then I had a good job. Early 20s, I had probably 19, 20. I had a real good job. And I got fired for being late. They had a real strict tardy policy, and it said if you're late 7 times, we fire you. And the job was up the street from the house. I got fired from it. I was tardy. On the 8th time, they had my check waiting for me and told me I was fired. For 2 months, I lied to my uncle, who was my father. I claimed, basically my dad. For 2 months, I lied. Told him I still was working until he saw. Parents know when it was a struggle in there.
Right.
And so he just called me out on my BS, and I was leaving to go hang out with some friends one day and said, "I know you ain't got no job. Don't come back to my house unless you got a job." And so I went and got a job at Taco Bell. So I'll come back to this house. I'll come back with a job. And so that's when I met my now current wife. But then we had our struggles at the same time because, again, I had this on again, off again relationship with substances that would up and down that would kind of trigger me to do things that I should not be doing, making bad decisions, almost causing me to lose her, almost losing my life. Uh, and that was the biggest thing, was twice, almost losing my life. And so the biggest the biggest one was, this was when we first got married, and I was a closet substance abuser, where I can, or high functioning, I was call it high functioning, to where I could do it and hide it, or do it at times to where I wasn't necessarily noticeable, for others to notice that there was an issue. And then just woke up one morning and used, and all of a sudden I had to take my daughter to school. And I knew at that moment, if I got behind the wheel, I was either going to die or go to jail, because I was
Mm.
that inebriated and I didn't want to put my daughter in that danger. I called the cops on myself that morning and said, I can't drive. I've taken too much of something, and I'm afraid I'm gonna die. And they took me straight to the hospital from there. And so from there, I stayed in the hospital, 3 days, and family there. My mom was there. My mom was an amputee, struggled with diabetes her whole life. I lost her in 2018.
Mm.
But she was the one force that was beside my wife, and that was always there for me. Never judged me, through all those things. So my journey is one that I owed it to my family to grow, to be different, to do something different, um, because of those choices that I made. And so that's when I actually got serious about going back to school and finishing my degree. Finally finding my career in human resources. Found myself. I was in the banking industry at first. I had a young man. His name is Chris Gore. Never forget this. He was in human resources, a young black man in human resources. And he was like, "Why don't you go into HR?" I was like, "Why would I go into HR? It's nothing but women there." He said, "Aha, aha." But it wasn't for that reason I was thinking. It was because he was like, "You will always be selected because they're always looking to diversify the offices, the workspace, because there's always only women in those spaces. So not only as a man, but as a black man, people are going to at least interview you, even if they're checking off boxes." He's like, "Don't matter. Let them check off that box because somebody's going to like you. So let them check off that box." And so that's when I journeyed into being in HR and been in that career field ever since. And it's been my passion, what I've grown to truly love. And it's a career that's allowed me to meet many different places. Uh, the fact that Tracy Morris came into my life and saw something in me that I didn't see. Number one, I didn't think it was possible to become part of fraternity in grad, in the grad alumni. And he opened up that possibility. He opened up the possibility and allowed me to go into rooms and spaces. And then, two most important things he told me that are a part of everything that I do today, even as I'm teaching. He told me, number one, if two people are the same, then one person's not needed. So don't be the same as somebody else. And then the other thing he told me is pretty much, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Don't go into rooms where you think you're the smartest and you can hover over everybody else. Go into those spaces where you're going to be challenged, and people are going to challenge who you are, challenge your thought process, challenge some of your beliefs. You don't just go into a room where everybody believes and talks the same thing the way you do. Go into rooms that's going to make you feel uncomfortable. And so, man, that journey almost bring me chills, because I think about all the time is that I shouldn't be here. And I was able to get up out that hospital bed, go to a facility and get my thoughts right, and know that I was meant to be here. And God wasn't ready for me to leave this earth at that moment, because I definitely would have more than likely would have left this earth at that time if I'd have got behind the wheel at that moment, and without a doubt.
Man, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Jason.
Nah, just, man, to me, man, you just see brothers out on the road and they see you rocking with your wife. They see, Dr. Randall. You know what I mean? Folks, it's like, man, you just never realize. Like, I never, in a great way, I'll never see you two brothers the same. And it adds just a huge layer of amazingness to your stories. And this is one of the things that we want to do in this podcast. And just what it sounds like you both have in common, which I think is dope, is mentorship has been something that has been pivotal for the two of you, which is something that I guess in some other ways everybody kind of has that maybe, but yours is very specific. There are people who you can specifically point to say it was because of this expectation. And I'd like to know just from both of you, like, was having a mentor like a thing that as you're journeying, yeah.
There you go. That word.
That's a new verb.
And it's not alcoholic. I'm like, what am I drinking? You know what I'm saying? Man, as you're journeying through your process, I know, and everybody knows that, especially as you're younger and you've got all these insecurities and life is just trying to take you in all these different directions. How did having a mentor, and I go back to you, Dr. Randall, because I think about what you said when you first started talking about these amazing, dope folks that are at the prison on Miramar, and it like drew something in you. Where did that feeling come from? Like, as you're thinking about those guys, and does it have to do with like you thinking of like what someone did for you that you get a chance to do now or something, or what was that necessarily?
Yeah, I think it does. It kind of puts you in a space where you're making a difference, right? And so they're kind of hanging on your every word, but they're also coming up to you, having honest conversations with you. And it's funny, 2 weeks ago they had this Brig Demo Day, and so what they did is they piloted, because they have an entrepreneurial track that they're on. So they piloted their future businesses when they get done from being incarcerated. And they had all these poster boards and these displays on these businesses. So I'm going to each of the different stations and talking to them about their business plans and the layout. And they had it all laid out, and they had quantifiable information. Now, me being a business major, I was able to add to that to talk about some nonprofit stuff and LLCs and things of that nature. So it gives you purpose, more than anything. And then so you see you're making a difference, and it's visible, and that's a superpower. And so finding that superpower is dope. Like you when you find your why, your superpower, that's dope. So for me, that's what it is.
And let me follow up for just a second, because again, I think sometimes we use language and we use it to abbreviate stuff.
Mhm.
Talk about what it feels like to find your why. Talk about what it feels like to find your purpose.
It's like standing on the shore of a beach and the waves hitting your feet and the air is cool and there's no worries. That's what it feels like. There's nothing around. There's no worries. You're cool water on your feet. You can see the sunset in the distance, and you have not a care in the world. But you know you're protected, and you feel safe. That's what it feels like.
All right.
For me, it was simply as I love waking up every day, and I actually, man, I love waking up every day, and I dread dying
Yeah.
because I found my purpose. I actually
Yeah.
dread leaving, not fulfilling all the things that I have fulfilled, not only my purpose but my career. So that that's been the scariest thing is, there was a period where you I went through where I wasn't afraid to, and it was that moment that I realized now I do not want to leave. Everything's too soon. Do I have more yesterdays than tomorrows? And so I want to make sure my tomorrows, I cherish every minute of the tomorrows. No matter, I can have a bad day the day before, but man, I wake up like I get to start again. And the great thing about yesterday is it had to end, and I get to wake up and start a new one the next day, and that's the main thing that keeps me energized about my why.
That's dope. Let me ask you, Cecil, on your login screen, you've got a bunch of initials, and I recognize what some of those are. I know PRW. PRC is for that pro rodeo club that he's a part of. So.
RACR, I'm thinking about maybe that's a recreational accelerating crash retail worker. And then he's a highly respectable man player. I don't know what that means. I'm like, all right, if that's what we're doing now, we doing it. If we here now, you know what I'm saying? It's whatever. We know what doctor is. That's pretty easy. But doctor what, we don't know. But all this other stuff, yeah.
We'll find out.
Pro rodeo clown. No.
Okay, so as I explained, my career path has taken me to the field of human resources. And so that is, the first person you talk to when you're going to look for a job, and the last person you talk to when you leave a job. That's ultimately what the HR, the role is in an organization, and to maintain law in the workforce, to make sure the workforce itself can avoid being in front of a judge. And if they do have to end up in front of the judge, we'll make sure we have our house and affairs on what information is being shared in front of a judge to make sure the case is in our favor, whether we're supporting you as an employee or as a leader or as an organization overall as a whole. So my specialty is recruitment. So I'm essentially a senior talent acquisition specialist consultant. And I've done it in I think the three major industries. So I've done it for defense and space. I've done it for oil and gas, and now I'm doing it for healthcare. And those are the three industries that I've serviced over my 25-year career doing that. So my letters are my first specialty is just human resources management professional, managing the day-to-day activities within human resources. The PRC is professional recruiting and certification. I'm a certified recruiter to specialize in recruiter in all of any industry across the board. And then Recruiter Academy certified recruiter is specialty to healthcare. I'm certified and specialized as a consultant in healthcare recruitment, specifically physicians, nurses, doctors, physical therapists, occupational therapists, audiologists, speech therapists, those that require licenses or clinical licenses. Is what I'm specialized in, because we have to do all the review of any of their medical certifications and whatnot, find any findings, review those findings before we actually bring them on board for any type of interview process. And also, it's also uncertified as I don't have one more. There's one more on there. It got too long though. It's certified diversity recruiter, so that I'm specialized also in recognizing diversity needs within our workforce.
Outstanding.
That's dope.
Dr. Randall, you are a doctor. Tell me what type of doctor you are.
So I have a doctorate in business administration. I also have a MBA, Master's of Business Administration, with it, especially in project management. And then now I'm actually working on my project management professional certification, which I'll try to get to at the end of the year. PMP.
That's the PMP.
Yeah.
I just met another guy that's
Yeah.
looking for
So,
the same thing. I need to connect you to. He's
yeah, it's
he
tough.
just
It's
retired from
tough.
the Navy.
I took it once, didn't do so hot, but again, that that
Yeah.
just I know what I got to do. So, but I just kind of want to dive back, just step back for a second. Cecil didn't. So when you're around frat and there's a lot of intermingling, right? There's a lot of cross pollination. So shout out to Delano Jones, our profile, who told me, I guess this is like a year and a half ago now. I had just got my doctorate. I said I wanted to teach, but I didn't know how to break across. I only taught in the Navy, never taught in higher ed. And he told me his wife graduated from this SADICA program, San Diego Imperial Community College Association. It's an actual teaching internship that nobody really knows about. So I got in at the last minute by the grace of God. And from that internship, I got my first teaching job. So now last year is my first teaching job. I'm teaching introduction to business. I get to week 8, I think it was, and I got a human resource class I have to teach. Now, some of my classes, obviously, human resource and business, but who do I know that's an HR specialist? Ding, ding, ding. Cecil. Cecil, no, without hesitation, drove up to Oceanside. I was teaching at Miracosta, gave a lecture to my class and told them about just being in human resource. And a lot of them, about 3 or 4 of them in that class actually went that route. So it was good just to have frat to be able to reach out to, and then they be part of your journey, because that was my first college class that I had ever taught, ever. And he came in and just knocked it out. So he was part of that growth in my ascension to higher education.
It's crazy. I always tell people your associations will always outwork your skills.
Oh yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
one of the things that's really dope about these organizations is, in any organization that brings people together for whatever purpose it is, whether it's church or whatever. So shout out to that. A thought just came to me right now. And I'll start with you, Cecil. Cecil Shelton, HRMB, PRC, RACR, Prek Racker. Yeah. I have 45 employees. No, I'm kidding.
You got to have 50.
In
the state of in California, depends. You got 50, 15.
I have
We'll
40
talk about what laws apply.
Yeah, 16 of them want to be late. Another 8 of them don't agree with my write-up. No, but man, I'm thinking, so man, I'm a 17-year-old youngster that's overweight, insecure, dibbling and dabbling, doing whatever I ain't supposed to be doing, I'm doing it. It sounds like, because typically people don't stray too far away from who they really were before. It's just now you've become what you probably really should have been, is what I kind of think. So in the back of your mind, you knew what you was doing was wrong, and so there's probably a lot of shame and all that comes with it. The stuff you like, whenever you got a chance to slow down, you probably was like, "What am I doing?" But this is just what we doing. And I come to you, and I say, "This is where I'm at right now, Mr. Cecil, Mr. Shelton. I got a moment of clarity, and man, I don't know what's going on with me, man, and I want you to mentor me. What's the first thing we doing?"
Me personally, I'm talking to your guardian, your parent, making sure it's okay, making sure there is not is it okay that I share my story, share my journey with your child, because I want to be authentic as possible. At that age, they can tell when you're being fake, when you're just trying too hard, to just for whatever reason. But being fake, they can tell that right away, and they're not going to open up and be authentic with you if you're not being authentic with them, with your story, with your journey. They don't want to hear, honestly, they don't want to hear the glitz and glamour. They don't want to hear the goods. They see where you are right now, so they know you're good in the sense of what you're doing right now. They want to know about the bad. Why you see I'm doing bad right now? What makes you think that, I should listen to you if you're doing good? And so I want to be able to be authentic. So I got to get that permission to be authentic and keep it real with these young men. It's almost like being scared straight. But we're not taking them, actually to a facility scared straight. But I'm gonna be real and tell them these real stories that they go through. Sometimes they tell me stories that I'm like, whoa, I can't. And you're only 17. You have to deal with that. That's heavy. So what can I do what can I give you to help you work through that? Because that's even heavy for me sometimes if some of the information is shared with us, the things that they have to unpack. So that's what I said. Sometimes they pour into me more than I pour into them. But more importantly, I want to share to them that again, it's never the end. You might think it looks like the end. It might feel like the end today, but it's a journey. And what things can we put in place to allow you to be successful in that journey? So, what tools can I give you? What tools can I provide them? Here's what I did. Here's what worked for me. Might not work for you, but I'm gonna give you this package of things, of tools that worked for me. Number
Give
one,
some. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
give you some things first. And I'm like, man, get healthy. If they overweight and dealing with that, you got to get healthy for yourself. Don't wait till you my age still struggling to try to put some of the weight off. I work out 6 times a week, and I'm still a big guy, but I know I'm healthier than I've ever been in my big boned ways that I'm in right now. And so I know I'm healthier in terms of some of the choices and stuff that I made, but I do also know that a lot of the choices that I made that I'm younger is what I'm carrying still with me today. So I can only be honest and say you have a choice and a chance. You got choices, or chances, right? And then also you got consequences. So the 3 C's: you got your choices, your chances, or your consequences. And so how are you going to utilize that? You got an opportunity right now to change and make different choices than I did at that time. So hopefully steer them into uh, that frame of thinking, hopefully that I was you once. I had those same insecurities. And let me be honest with you, the insecurities don't go away, they change, or you learn how to deal with them. They don't necessarily go away, but you mature and learn how to work through whatever they were at that time. If you unpack the trauma, if there's trauma to have to deal with, let's deal with that. That might be what's unraveling into these other areas of your life. There's got to be an unknown or uh, unchecked trauma that potentially you could be dealing with. So let's start there, because if we don't start there, and that's what I realized in my therapy sessions, everything, it was this unchecked trauma that I had that just kind of leaked into everything else that I was creating a mess with everywhere else that I was not, touching upon along my journey.
Mm. Well, real quick, what does some of that trauma look like, and how was it like showing up for you? What are some areas that even now, you know what I'm saying?
Oh man, I was a thief. I would steal and lie from people that I love, and lie to them right in their face. I was writing checks from family members, and stealing from them, and then lying about it. And why was I allowed to lie about? Here's the thing. I realized here was the trick that was able to pull off. If I'm a good man, if I'm a good person, if I did all the other little things that you're supposed to do on a daily basis around the house to put up this facade, nobody's going to believe somebody when they call you a liar.
Mm.
So I learned that if I could mask myself into this person,
Mm.
that if somebody were to come tell you, Jason, Cecil did this, you're gonna be like, ain't no way.
You know why, right?
I know that dude. I know that cat. That I know that dude personally. He would not. But I was able to be a manipulative liar in that degree to where I could lie about things and get away with it,
Mm.
um, until I couldn't. That
Mm.
what it boiled down to. I would try to lie my way out of stuff,
Mm.
but people be like, that dude does his homework every single
Mm.
day, and he's here every single day. He shows up when we want him to show up. When my aunt and uncle that I lived with, I'm waking up, I'm cleaning up, doing my homework on time. And my I call my little brother, who's my cousin at the time, he was, doing all the other things wrong. I was doing half the stuff or even more that he was doing, getting caught for. And they never would believe him when he told them, I'm doing that stuff. Oh no, who you think I got the weed from? Cecil. And they'd be like, no, you didn't. You did not get that weed from him. Who you think who got me the alcohol when I came home drunk? He gave it to me. No, he didn't. He would never do that and bring you home. So it kind of put up this facade that nobody would believe that this person that was waking up and doing his chores and going to school and doing all the right things we thought he should be doing. Ain't no way he's doing those things. And so that kind of became a problem throughout my life, is that I knew that if I put on the facade that I was such a good person and a good man, that if I was caught in a lie, people wouldn't believe it.
Wow.
Amen.
Yeah. Wow. What about you, Dr. Randall? You know, I'm coming to you. I'm young. I'm joining the Navy. I got these parental things. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm off the hook. I'm unruly. Yeah, I mean,
the first thing I'm gonna tell you, and I tell everybody this, is I want you to not have the fear of failure. So I make you say it out loud. I will fail. I'm gonna fail. Just say it out loud to get it out in the open, and then you address it. Right, first attempt at learning. Then you're gonna hear no. It's on to the next opportunity. And I've had to eat and live my own words by telling people that over and over and over again. So that's the first thing I'm gonna tell you. Just squash the fear of failure, because it's gonna happen. There's gonna be some ups and downs, like Cecil already talked about. I already talked about. It's not gonna always be great. So let's first of all get that out the way. The next is find your why, because you have to have a strong why. Your why is your conviction. Your why is ultimately going to lead to you to your superpower. And as I was reading the book that I had to read because I got in trouble in the Navy, Dave Cottrell's Monday Morning Mentoring, the author wrote, begin everything with the end in mind. So as you start something, already be visioning the manifestation of how it's going to end. So begin everything with the end in mind. And those are the core things that I tell people, and just hold them accountable. And then as I build relationships with them, they hold me accountable as well. So it works. It's a duality. It works both ways. So those are the key things that I tell them, right? And just motivate them. And there's going to be the dark days. There's going to be the dark days where it seems like it's not going to work. But those are the days when you get stronger. I know. I absolutely know that. I'm not going to tell you what I heard. I'm going to tell you what I know. Because I've had those dark days, and I could, remember back even recently, as recent as 2016. This is before I would refuse to go see a therapist. I refused. I was bitter, snapping, doing just some wild stuff. A lot of anxiety, depression, a lot of childhood trauma that I never unpacked. My wife was like, check this out. I love you. You don't got to talk to me, but you need to talk to somebody. And from 2016 to this day, shout out to Brenda Mack. I've been seeing her since 2016. Just consistently every 2 weeks, just talking and just realizing how therapeutic it was just to talk to somebody that would listen. So,
do you remember your first? Because I remember and when I started seeing my therapist last year, I remember that first, like, yo, what? Do you remember like that first, like, wait a minute? Huh?
It was weird. Yeah, it was weird because you're like, this person you don't know. So you got to build that relationship, because it's building a relationship irrespective of what it is, right? What type of relationship. So you got to build that relationship and that trust. So you don't want to say everything up front, because you're like, man, I don't really know her like that. Right. And so you feeling some type of way. And so there's that apprehension. So it was just weird. It was like weird. And you were a little standoffish. At least I was. And then as I figured out she was just like me, and she was divulging some of her childhood trauma, it just brought those walls down. Once those walls came down, the floodgates opened. I just opened up. And to this day, she still remembers everything that I told her back then. And she'll still recite, hey, remember when this happened? Remember when this happened? Did you quit? No. Boom. And then it's that reinforcement, that reassurance.
I want to kind of tack onto that. For me, man, it was my therapist I actually found out it was my trauma that I was trying to get through was death. So as a 10-year-old, there was a lot of death around me. 10 years old, the first one was my grandfather, 94 years old. But I spent the entire night with the corpse and had no idea. I slept in the room with my grandfather, had no idea that he had passed away the night before. I woke up the next day and my mom was like, "Where's your grandfather at? He hasn't came out all day and all night." And I was like, "I don't know. He's still in there asleep." They run in there and was like, "He's been gone." I had no idea.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing that happened. And then 3 months later, my grandmother passed away at 6:08 a.m. on Christmas Eve. On Christmas Eve, and we always had a tradition that day of opening up a Christmas present, and so that kind of transformed how I looked at Christmas Eves moving forward. So grandma and grandpa in that short time period really traumatized me around death, around people dying, and then as I got older, I have major fear and flashes of leaving my family. Did I leave? Am I leaving them? I don't want to leave them with problems or hardships. I don't want to leave them. Period. Don't want to leave them. And that became some of my trauma. Instead of living, worrying about dying. And we had to unpack that. So that was the biggest change, was just living, man. And that's kind of the biggest, is enjoying the living, because you cannot control when it's time for you to go home. But I was trying to control that. I was trying to worry about that. I was living cautiously, trying to thinking I could control that, and I couldn't control that. As each time someone close to me would pass unexpectedly or knowingly, it affected me a little different than I probably did. I wouldn't say, I'm not gonna claim it affected me more or anything, but it had a traumatizing effect on me each time that it was close to me, that it happened close to me, that I had to unpack, to where she was able to translate the fear of dying into enjoying living.
Wow. I sit here sometimes and, I'm into the conversation, but I'm also mindful of the clock, and I'm looking at where we are with the conversation, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're at a minute 22 and we're on something that is so real and so raw. Because what I'm hearing both of you talk about in different ways is having loved ones leave you, right? And what that's like. Yours is grandpa dies, and shortly after that, grandma dies, and they leave you that way. For Dr. Randall, it's, well, mom leaves, right? And then she comes back, but she can't really come back. And then later she passes away. And so he's got Mama Ellen there, right? It's that sense of having people in our lives and having them taken away unexpectedly when we're kids, right? Whether it's with your 10 or when it's with your 15, it's way too young to be dealing with that stuff.
Yeah.
Not really having a way to deal with that at that age. And so I am saddened by the fact that we're in this space, because I think we could do another hour from where we are now.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate, and I say this all the time at the end of these podcasts, I get to know the people that are on the podcast with us so much better, because everybody's willing to do what you guys have done and modeled for us tonight, which is, I'm going to have a real conversation about what's really gone on in my life, how it's really impacted me, and how I've really tried to get through that. And you guys shared stuff, and I like the fact that as close as the two of you are, that you're saying to each other, I'm hearing stuff that I ain't never heard before.
Yeah.
In that detail, right? Because you guys are being willing to share stuff that I know I told you the story before, but I left out this part.
Yeah.
That matters. And so it's a constant message that Jason and I keep hearing. And there's a reason why we're here to kind of share it, is so many people have dealt with so much trauma that they weren't really prepared to deal with. And they spend the rest of their adult life trying to deal with that. And so I appreciate the courage the two of you have shown, trying to share with our audience so that they can be more comfortable to make some of the choices that you two have to get through that trauma. So I wanted to thank you. not just because you're my brothers, but certainly because you're my brothers, but because you're willing to share, and that's what it's all about. Jason, I'll turn it back over to you.
Right on. Hey, man, I'm grateful, man. There's so much going through my mind. Each one of these episodes is something very different. Everybody has everybody has something very unique to add to this conversation. And one thing that stands out more than anything here is both of yours admiration for the people that have mentored you, stood by you, your appreciation for it, and your commitment to being that way towards others. And so I'm thinking, man, one of the times I want to do, I don't know, I just want to do something around like mentorship and y'all are the folks that I would love to bring to talk about some of that stuff, and maybe even in a different space. But I'm very grateful to both of you. Grateful for your experiences. Grateful for what you've been able to do with your lives in spite of your circumstance. One thing is for sure. One thing that exudes from your stories is hope and promise. One thing that exudes from your stories is the benefits of not quitting, is just continuing on. I'm grateful for what has happened, grateful for what has happened to you or what you've allowed it to do to you and for you, and the way that it manifests itself in other people. So I would say my hat's off to you guys, but I don't have a hat on right now. But
good, man.
Man, I'm very, very grateful that you took this time and speak here today. And we do this one thing in the organization that I belonged to at one time called RISE, the RISE Urban Leadership Fellows, and we learned the idea of the one breath. And so give you a second, each one of you, just a second, and in one breath, tell some youngster or somebody in one breath something of value to encourage them. I feel like that's a great way to close this. And then we always close with prayer, but just one breath. You can't say, you can't do none of that. You got to take your breath, and whatever you got to say it all in one breath. So we'll give you both a second.
You want to go, Cecil?
Well, you gave me deference at the opening. I'll give you deference on the closing.
Okay, here we go. If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude.
Amen.
Thank you.
But you are not changing, you are choosing. Choose wisely.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, these are mentors right here. We got some catching up to do. We want y'all to stick around after this. Both y'all, if you will. To everybody that tapped in today, thank you. To those that left comments, starting with Jerry. Jerry, I got you. McCormick, we get you all. We just working through how this works. Thank you, Jerry. McCormick, thank you to my sister Sarah. Some weird guy named Michael DeWitt Washington. I don't know who that is. He commented too. And then Cecil Brown, and then my sister Solveda, I call her Rising Butterfly Rodriguez. Thank you for tapping in tonight. Thank you, Mr. Cecil Shelton, Dr. Raul Randle. Thank you both for being here. Thank you for representing you too, Mike, the Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Grateful.
You got to say the whole thing like a Tribe Called Quest. You can't just say part of it.
Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. You know what I'm saying?
Sir. Yes, sir.
There you go. There you go.
We always pray on our way out. The reason why we pray, one is because prayer is good, but Mike committed to God when this thing jumped off that it was his idea. So we want to thank God for it. There's a lot of things happening behind the scenes that people don't know, so we don't brag about it. But this space has opened up some amazing other spaces. And so we're very grateful for that. And so if y'all don't mind, I always say in full transparency, I am a Christian. So when I pray to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So I just want to say a quick prayer and thanks for our time, and we're going to let y'all go. So God, I just want to say thank you for tonight. I'm just grateful for Cecil and Dr. Randall. Thank you for just their lives. I just get this incredible sense of just robust mentorship. I'm so grateful for the young men that get to spend time with these guys that understand the value of time and have incredible stories, an incredible amount of wisdom and gratitude. Thank you for them being family men, good fathers. I heard so much tonight from Cecil about just not wanting to go and just wanting to spend time and pour into his children, his family. Thank you for his incredible wife, just beautiful sister or whatever that poured in him and taught him the value of not quitting when she certainly could have. And just very, very grateful. Thank you for that chief that pulled Dr. Randall to the side and brought him downstairs and showed him an unorthodox way of being a leader. So thank you for that. Thank you for all the many ways for those that are struggling in their journey right now. I just pray that they would recognize that person that's trying to do something for them, that they would stop and just recognize and take a leap of faith and try something different. So continue to guide us in this space. We're grateful. Bless everybody that heard this tonight, that will hear it. Thank you for providing this space. And we're just grateful that for whatever reason, you're choosing to allow us to turn these computers on, hit go live, do the things that we get a chance to do, hear from these amazing men that we get to hear from on a weekly basis. Let's pray that you will continue to do stuff with this space so that you would be glorified, men would be healed, and that eventually we would start hearing brothers say, yeah, brother, I'm good. So we love you in Jesus' name. Amen. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. We're grateful. We'll be here next week is the first Monday. So we will not be here next week. We will be taking that week off. We will finish up our series in the Divine Nine with the Iota Phi Beta. Am I right?
Theta.
Iota Phi Theta, right? What is it? What is it?
Phi Theta, but you're good.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
No. I did confirm today that they've been around since 1963. So I did confirm that with the guy today, but we'll finish up our series the first week back in May, or second week of May with that fraternity. We're really grateful for you all. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you again next time. All right.
Luke, bye.
Go mob, brothers.
Go mob.